Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to Own Your Breath podcast. I'm Rihanna Yusuf, a hypnotherapist and transformation coach. I'm currently running a series tributing to men, our fellow warriors, as I did previously for women, celebrating women, and I ran for 8 episodes. I've got overwhelming response for men actually this time, and I'm very grateful. And one of them is Simon Middleton, a leadership and business coach, right? You're a life coach as well. Yeah.
Life and leadership, yeah.
And he is the co-founder of Creating Waves. Hello, Simon. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you. And Simon currently is in Mauritius. How's the weather over there? It's crazy over here.
It's beautiful outside, not a cloud in the sky. Waves are good, so yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Excellent. Is it hot? And currently in Singapore, it's crazy hot and humid, as in many places in Asia.
Well, it's just moving into their winter time now, but winter's like 26, 27 degrees every day. So
Right.
yeah, it's just not humid like Singapore is, but that's beautiful
Right.
here.
So does winter means it's raining a lot, or not necessary?
No. It's just actually it doesn't really rain much here in the winter. It's actually a beautiful temperature, so it's really good.
Oh, that's amazing. That's beautiful. Okay, so I was really looking forward to speak to you because you have to me a very inspirational story. Simon, in his own right, is successful in what he's doing, and you were doing something else prior to that. You were in finance, you said, I recall, yeah?
So marketing, I was doing marketing.
Yeah. And most importantly, Simon, you have ADHD and dyslexic, and which has held you back in your younger days. And however, you've managed to transform it to become your superpower, if I may say so.
Yeah, definitely is a superpower. It is now. I don't think it was a superpower. It wasn't seen as a superpower, but
yeah, I know, and that's the story that I want to hear. Tell me, how was it when you were young? How did it, how do you know that you have ADHD or dyslexic, and what did you go through as a child?
Okay. Well, I didn't find out that I had dyslexia till I was around about 31, 32.
Okay.
But I guess growing up, I don't know, if people don't know, dyslexia is kind of like a learning difficulty that affects how a person reads, writes, and kind of processes information. And numbers as well. And it's quite hard for them for myself, it was like very hard to be able to spell, to be able to write things, to be able to read books. I'd have to kind of keep rereading things. And I guess with the ADHD, which is kind of which is another kind of part of dyslexia, like a lot of people with dyslexia have the ADHD part as well, is that, you just struggle with being able to focus on things, so you're kind of all over the place. So I guess growing up at school is, I'm quite old now, so I was in the school in this in the
You're not very
80s.
old. You're not very old. You are
Young at heart.
Wiser.
So yeah, so in the 70s and 80s, it just wasn't really heard of. So yeah, I was always in the bottom of the class in everything. I was always, I think, in every single school report I got, it was, Simon talks too much and doesn't listen. I couldn't spell, I couldn't really read or write properly. So yeah, school was a struggle, but not in a mental or physical way. I had lots of friends, and I was just, I guess, a bit more of a class joker, really. I didn't really take school very seriously because I couldn't process how they were teaching me. So you just kind of always looked at as the stupid one in the class. I was always at the back of the class, or teachers used to think you were stupid. So
that can be easy. I mean, that can't be easy at all for a child, for a boy especially.
Yeah, no, it was. I guess if I look back at school, I hated school. but it didn't. I don't think it didn't affect. I guess it affected me mentally as I went on in life. But yeah, I guess you just deal with it. You know, when you just struggle with reading or struggle with writing or processing things at school, you just kind of just deal with it. And it wasn't, you know, I wasn't. And luckily, I had parents that weren't like really pushy. And like in Asia, you got to have really good grades. Luckily, my parents weren't too pushy with me. I didn't really have a big go at me about my grades and stuff. So, but I think I was quite lucky because I kind of knew at an early age what I wanted to do in life, which I think helped. Because normally people with dyslexia and stuff are more creative. So I always knew I wanted to be like a designer of some kind or an architect or something. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And I think that kind of helped actually with school, because I thought, oh, I don't need French. Well, actually, I do need French now because I live in Mauritius. French, but you know, I wasn't really into maths and English. I thought, okay, I'm just going to be creative.
Good. How did it affect you mentally?
I guess mentally for me. Mentally, it's a bit of a different one. I think I wasn't. I don't really suffer from mental health. Actually, I'm pretty luckily. I'm lucky.
When people, you know, when people perceive you as stupid, stupid, or you know, perceive you in a certain way, does it make you feel less than enough or low self-esteem, things like that?
I think where it affected me the most is that you never feel like you're good enough. And when you're perceived as stupid, and if I'm totally honest, I think the key thing was I didn't really talk about it, because no one wants, especially when you're in your adult life, you don't want to talk to, when you meet people or when you go for jobs and so forth, you never really want to say, oh, I can't really write particularly well, I can't spell and so forth. So you don't really talk about it. So you have to kind of like find ways to kind of get through it, I guess. I guess my biggest one I think I suffered with later in my career was I was kind of like, I had like this imposter syndrome where I thought that they're going to find out that they're going to find out that I'm bad, or I'm going to find out that I'm really stupid, and then it'll all go away. So that was the thing that I used to suffer with quite a lot, was that part. Like, I wasn't too sure how I got to where I was, and I felt like it was going to be taken away because they're going to find out who I really am, this stupid kind of person that doesn't really know what he's doing. That was I kind of felt that I struggled with a lot. Yeah, that kind of aspect of it. But and it was only, I think, in my 40s where I stopped feeling, well, I don't know if I ever will stop thinking that I'm stupid, but I actually feel like it kind of more so drives me now. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would do the things that I do now, actually, or progress in my career. It's kind of like I'm going to kind of prove everyone wrong kind of thing now.
Right. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, I think. Yeah, I understand you. I got you. You use it as a driving point to move forward instead of putting you down. So how do you actually, you know, those were, to me, those were not an easy feat for someone to go through, whether you're a child or an adult, and to have this constant thoughts of not feeling good enough, you know, and to be, let's be honest, 90% or more of the world have these thoughts. You know, they just won't admit, right? So great respect to you for being so open about it. How do you actually, you know, turn those challenges to become your superpower?
Well, I think, you know, as I said, I found I was when I was in the UK, I was struggling at work. I was struggling in meetings and so forth. And that's why I went to HR and said, look, something's not right here. I'm not kind of managing particularly well. So I went and had the test and so forth. And I remember when I got the results from.
What kind of struggles were you having that led you to?
For me, it was mainly in meetings. I was struggling in meetings to be able to, because I was having to start managing people. and I was struggling in meetings to be able to focus listening and then writing my notes down. And I was struggling getting deadlines done. I was struggling to manage people. And obviously when you start to manage it, then you get given a budget. So then I was in charge of like money. I was in charge of numbers, and that just stuff just freaks me out. Like how I had to like deal with numbers and how much things cost. And there's certain things that as a I'm not sure if it's dyslexic or just as a person, I couldn't really cope with that aspect. So when I went and had my dyslexic test done with this expert, I think it was one of the top people in the UK at the time. They just couldn't believe that I was at that time. They said it was one of the worst cases they'd seen in an adult, and they were unsure how I got to this stage or this age without someone really noticing. And I kind of broke when I found out. I then kind of broke down. I was like, I was in the car on my own when I got the results, and I just cried. And I was like, "Fuck! Now I know. Now there's a lot that I understand now. Why I did things the way that I did." And then I guess that when you find something out like that, you then take a step back. And what do I need to do, and what are the processes that I need to do to get better? How can I make myself better? And I think that was the kind of, I guess, the start of my journey, because at that point I was just an executive kind of marketing person in the UK. But then from there, I kind of worked out, okay, what are my strengths? What am I good at? What am I not so good at? So that I could then kind of really build on that. And I always remember that they got me, the dyslexic company gave me this book to read. Okay. And I found it yesterday, actually, bizarrely. Somehow it seems to track.
What was the title? Let me tell you, there are a few people who are interested in listening to your particular podcast, because there are many people that they suspect they might be struggling. So we all look forward to your podcast. No pressure. So what book was it? Is it?
I think it's called like How to Deal with Dyslexia at Work. It's a really old book. It was something, I think it was in the 80s or something. But I kind of flicked through it yesterday because I was like, oh my God, I've still got this book. And I remember like, one of the first things was it said like, go back and have a look at your desk to see what your desk is like. And I remember like going back, and my desk was just like a bomb had hit it, It was just paperwork everywhere, and it was just crazy. So it was more like, okay, how am I going to clear my mind now? How am I going to? So I just cleared my whole desk of some of the simple things to do, and then just look at how am I going to structure things differently, really moving forward, and yeah. But what I didn't realize was what I was doing was from a very young age was. My strength or my superpower back then was that I could kind of woo people to kind of help me, if that makes sense. So, which I found out later was a strength was mine, was that I could just kind of connect with people to kind of get them to do the things that I wasn't very good at. Wow. I became like a master at delegating at a really young age, because if I couldn't do something, I just thought, what's that? There's no point. I can't do this. I've got to get someone else to do this for me. Yeah. So I even remember back in my early days back in the UK, there was like a little group of finance ladies. I'd have to kind of like make sure that I wooed them, and like they were like my friends, and like so that they would just do the things I needed them to support with. So I would like, oh, would you mind doing this? I'm not very good at this, and like buy them, make them coffee or anything, just so they would do the things that I needed them to do that I wasn't very good at. So yeah, I would do. That's what I used to do a lot of that actually, which kind of helped, I think, later on in life, where to be able to master, to be able to delegate things. I'm not sure if I even answered your question. I can't remember what the question was.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I find it interesting. You said though you could do it. You've been doing it since even young.
Yeah. I can remember even like with girlfriends when I was 16, and I had to 16, 17 when I was at college or university, whatever it is now, where I had to write essays. So I would have like girlfriends. I was like, "Oh, would you be able to help me write the essay? Because I'm not very good at writing essays." And so that they can help do that stuff. Yeah. So anything that I wasn't good at, I used to think, okay, who can I get to be able to help me do it? Yeah. Who's better than me at that? so they could do that for me.
Okay, right. No, because I'm just thinking, are you asking, I can't help it, you know, are you asking people to do things because, you know, we kind of like lazy, you know, or you're taking people for granted, or you genuinely, couldn't do it, that's why you are asking for help?
Great question, isn't it? I think probably a little bit of both.
Mm.
But there were certain things that I just couldn't do. And I think one of the things you find with dyslexia is if it's something that you really hate, just don't do it. I mean, it's just, so I used to find ways, okay, there's no way that I can, if I wanted to write an essay, it would probably take me 3 times, 4 times, maybe 10 times longer than anyone else to do it. Because I just can't get, one of the things you struggle with is getting the things that are in your head down on paper. Anything I have to write, I struggle with. And also with numbers, there's certain things I just wasn't good with numbers or didn't know how to do. So I'd always find people that could do it for me.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's a smart thing to do. Focus on the areas that you are good at, and those that you're not, seek help. And I believe in this. I too learned this later part of my life, because for the longest time I have problem asking for help. So yeah. So, and then
I think to that point, when I got the opportunity to move to Singapore 11 years ago, I got offered the job to kind of work in a global marketing team. But I can remember, like, at that time, the lady who hired me, when she offered me the job, I panicked. I was like, shit, I've got to tell her that I'm dyslexic and I'm not very good at the writing and all this stuff. And she said, look, I'm not hiring you for that. I'm not hiring you to write stuff. I'm not really hiring you to, so don't worry about the finances and don't worry about that. Obviously, you're going to have to learn how to do some of that, but we'll get people around you to support you in those areas.
So nice.
I'm actually hiring you because I think you can persuade people to do things that we need them to do, and you can talk to people and can kind of build rapport, and that's what we need. So I think when people see your strength and then the other part of you that you're not so good at, there's always a way around it. And I think that's kind of been my philosophy in life later on as I kind of progressed is, and what I kind of do now is you really harness on what someone's strength is. And the weakness, we can come and look at ways that we can kind of fix some of those, but it's to really harness on what your strength is really. And because if you're using your strength, you're gonna, number one, you're gonna be loving what you do, and then you can normally excel more when you're utilizing your strength, because it becomes because it's normally your strength is something that just comes actually really natural to you. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have, to me though, I mean, sounds like you are great. You're good at persuading, and also negotiating, perhaps. And this.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's building that rapport with someone when you meet them, and kind of then be able to persuade them to be able to do the things you need them to be able to do. And I think that's what marketing really is. Really.
Yes. And that's not an easy skill to master. There's so many courses now teaching them.
Yeah. But I think I guess it's just that skill to be able to talk to someone, to just be able to connect, and to be able to show them what the benefits are of doing something. But also, I think when you connect with someone, you can kind of then build that trust and so forth.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool. So, and you did say that you were struggling with monkey mind, right? This condition, and how do you manage your monkey mind? I'm sure this one a lot of people are struggling with.
Yeah. I guess the monkey mind is a weird one. I always think, for me, and it's the best way I can describe it for me is, I'm just jumping all over the place. That I've got this little thing inside my mind where it's just jumping here, there, and everywhere, and I get distracted really easily. So I can be like talking to someone, and then a bird flies by. I'm like, oh, look at that lovely bird. Or I can be driving, and someone's kind of talking to me, and then I'm like, oh, focusing on something over there. I think so. It kind of jumps all over the place. And I think Buddha. I didn't realize that Buddha talks a lot about the monkey mind.
Absolutely, he did. Yeah.
And he does a lot about it. And I think he says that it's your mind is like having a bunch of drunken monkeys in your brain that are just running around causing chaos, fighting, and being distracted, which I thought was pretty fascinating. And yes, I kind of had that. And I could be fidgety and anxious and jumping around and getting too excited. Yeah. So that's kind of what the monkey mind is for me, actually. I'm not sure with other people, but yeah, it can be a pain in the ass to have sometimes. I think it's annoying sometimes I think it's more annoying for the people around you, actually, because for me, I can be like it, but sometimes it can be, I think it can be annoying around you.
Sorry, what did you say?
I think it can be annoying for the people, as I said, for the people around you. They're like, shut up, Simon, calm down.
I can imagine. But for you personally, I'm just wondering, I mean, having monkey mind, but do your mind then, do you have a very busy mind? Besides being hyperactive, so do you get overwhelmed easily or anxious, perhaps?
Do I get? I guess I used to a lot more than what I do now. I think I've learned to calm it, but I think because I'm in a different place in my life now, and I'm also in a different doing something different. But yeah, I can get anxious. I used to get very anxious around, if I was stressed in a situation, with work or in a relationship, it can kind of trigger you. But I think now I've kind of learned to kind of manage that monkey a little bit more and not, I guess, just can't be able to calm myself down and not let it worry me anymore. Where beforehand, you think that it's the biggest thing in the world.
What have you done? Is there any strategies or tips you want to share with us?
I guess strategies to calm my mind down is more like, it's just certain things I've done at work, actually. I guess number one is like I clear everything around me, so I'm clear in what I think I do. I think the other one is I've worked it out now just to be me, actually, and not to give a fuck what anyone thinks anymore. Actually, it is and just and then that goes down to even wearing what I want. Whatever I even when my last couple of years in the corporate world. Everyone had to wear shirt and ties now. I thought, I'm just not wearing this anymore. I'm just going to wear what I want to wear, like t-shirts, jeans, whatever it is. So I think that helps, just to go, I'm just going to be me. And I think the other aspect is that clearly it's just, I can just see through shit now, if that makes sense. Like I can see if there's just nonsense, and I just don't let that aspect annoy me anymore. Where beforehand it can kind of stir me up and drive me, and it's just to see and not let negative people around me anymore. I used to have a lot of negativeness around me.
Yeah, sounds like you're more mindful now, and you have more self-awareness, and you're more mindful of what is good for you and what to cut off.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things, I think, is to become self-aware. A lot of people aren't self-aware, which is normally why they're kind of struggling, or they get anxious, or they're not feeling good about themselves. The more self-aware you can kind of become, it's like a light switch just goes off in your brain. It just changes you. If you kind of know what your strengths are, if you know what your kind of personality type it is, if you know then how you can then communicate with people differently. And I think I learned a lot more of that the more I got into coaching. I wish I knew some more of the skills I had now when I was a leader. because it changes you can change everything about yourself to be able to deal with people and to be able to talk with people and to be able to adapt towards them, to be able to connect and to be able to not have that negativity around you, actually.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. You mentioned earlier that, sometimes, or a lot of times, we still have, this feeling not good enough. And most of us, I would say, tend to beat ourselves up when we perform less than what we expect ourselves to perform. And we may even carry shame with it. And one of the things, I said it, I said it many times in my meditation session, or in my coaching session, that especially on those days that we perform less than enough, whatever enough is, at that moment, instead of beating ourselves up, we should practice kindness, and love ourselves harder. And I know you have stressed on being kind to ourselves, the importance of it. Would you like to share how you've implemented this for yourself on your journey?
Sure. I get, actually, my partner kind of taught me more to do that, because I think she's like a super caring, understanding, very calm person to be around. Where I don't think I was ever really like that. I was always quite erratic, and she taught me to kind of to be able to just be more calm with myself. So she was like a huge influence on me to do that, because I was a super perfectionist and super kind of driven and always on the go, like go all the time.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm learning now, and especially now with my own business, is that if it's just not flowing, don't push it. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So and because I'm a character where I've got, okay, I'm going to do this, I've got to do it, I'm going to do it now. I can get really stressed by that, wind myself up if it's not flowing. I used to call it, I'm losing my mojo. I've lost my mojo today, kind of thing. And so now, if it's just not flowing, I just don't do it. I just put my laptop down and I go to the ocean. I'm lucky. I live 2 minutes walk from the beach. Let's go for a surf, or I go in the sea. I go for a walk, and I find that doing that stuff now, where beforehand I get more and more wound up and just sit there and just plow through. I realize if I just go for a walk or something, it completely changes my mind to be able to just calm, and then I start to be able to process what I need to then kind of do next. So I guess that's the way that I'm more like kinder to myself now.
By doing the things that you love.
Yeah, doing the things that I really love now, and again, just being, and just like being, it's okay. It's okay that it didn't work quite as well as you wanted, or what exactly is perfect if you think about it, and perfect is completely different in everyone's eyes.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
sometimes just calm down and just you're doing your best. Most of us are always doing the best we can possibly do all of the time.
I agree. And I think, it sounds like you've learned to accept yourself and things where they are, instead of struggling with it. And I'm really glad and happy for you that you found someone, that could be an anchor to you. And I mean, that's very important. I mean, as a partner, and she sounds like a great anchor for your life, like a stabilizer in a way.
100%, yeah, because I'm like, if you look, I do a lot of stuff with the disc wheel, and I'm like the red and the yellow, and she's the green and the blue, so complete opposite. But sometimes that can be a clash, but actually, what I found in life actually is, if you're that's called like the dominance and the innovator, or the whatever they call it, kind of inspiration kind of character, is actually you need to be more of the blue and the green, which is like the calmer kind of introverted character. So yeah, I've kind of learned a lot about that, and how to and she's kind of taught me a lot about that as well, just to be a little bit more calmer. And she easily will see if I'm getting erratic, just to like, okay, calm down a bit. which sometimes you need if you're a bit, as I said, that monkey mind where you just sometimes you just don't realize that you're being an idiot.
But you know what? I think at the end of the day, all of us needs one another. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't see. I mean, generally speaking, I don't see human being as being bad or good. You know, I think we all have got our own strength. We all got our own weaknesses. We just need to find our own tribe or people that understand us and that could remind us, compliment, and support us on the areas that that we need them, and amplify on those areas that that we're good at, and that way we all become whole.
No, definitely. I agree with you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Simon. So is there any advice you'd like to give to our listeners? Because like as I said, there are a few people that are excited to know, to understand about ADHD, how can they cope themselves better. A lot of us today, I think, find it hard to focus. Is there any tips or advice you would like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I think the key thing is really you're not alone now. Like with these, it's there's so much advice on what to do if you've got ADHD or dyslexia now on TikTok, or there's like little snippets and stuff. But I think the key thing is just to talk about it, and not be embarrassed about it, and just be open, because everyone's suffering with something. Everyone's kind of got a struggle with something, and it's nothing to really be embarrassed about. That's what I think one of my key learnings was. Actually, the more I spoke about it, the more it actually helped me. The more vulnerable I was, the more that it kind of helped me in my career.
That is so true. I like that a lot. Yeah.
And it can be someone like a partner or a work colleague, or even a coach that can kind of help you and support you and get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
But I think, as you said, I think it's a superpower actually to have the dyslexia or ADHD now, because if you look at companies that are out there now, they actually want dyslexic thinkers, for example, because they're creative, they're problem solvers, they look at things differently to other people. I actually now have it on my LinkedIn profile, which seems crazy to me now, but if I look back,
I like it. There's something different.
And like you only got to look at like Google, Apple. These companies are now want dyslexic people in their company. They actually even ask sometimes, "Are you dyslexic?" Because they want these people in their company because they can do things differently. Because they have that fresh perspective on things and can see things and see patterns and see things simpler. So it's a big strength now, and there's so many things out there, and other leaders that kind of promote this and really talk about it, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about now. I think that's the key. That stigma of it that I used to have when I was younger. I know, even like I guess 5 years ago, that stigma that you're stupid, actually it's kind of, you don't have to have that anymore. It's as I said, it's a superpower, and I would not be where I am today without that, because it makes me do things differently.
Thank you so much. I totally resonate with you in the sense of the path that you choose. I'm a huge advocate of authenticity and vulnerability. I really believe if you lean more towards them, we actually release all those shame, release all the struggle within ourselves, and and the more we accept ourselves, as you mentioned repeatedly, and the more free we feel, and the more free, the more creative and successful eventually we'll be. Thank you so much.
There's so many people are suffering with it. Like my job now is I really just coach and train teams that are just suffering with that. Suffering with like that, not having a work-life balance, not being able to delegate properly, not being able to deal with their time properly, the stresses of their day-to-day life. And it's just about how you simplify stuff and not overthink and just strategize and plan things in a bit more of a structured way, which is something I had which is what I kind of learned through having my dyslexia, was that I had the ability to simplify. And it's just kind of like simplifying what you do, so that you can focus. And yeah, so many people are just struggling right now. You know, I think ever since the COVID,
Yes.
you know, the world has changed. It has changed, and we got to like kind of address that. You know, people are struggling a lot more now to be able to just deal day to day with stuff.
True.
So, and never before did I think that's what my job would be now, that I kind of talk to people and kind of help them with that. Yeah, it's crazy, really.
Well, sounds like you've done amazing job with yourself, and you know I'm very glad that you're in a great place. And honestly, for me, there's so much insights that I learned from you, and I'm sure our listeners will be learning a lot from the stories that you shared. And thank you so much for being so open and bravely vulnerable.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone. I'm Rihanna, and with me, Simon Middleton. I'll be sharing the links where you can find Simon. And until next week, I'll see you guys again. Bye.